Alright guys, this is the solution video to quiz 3 for the AM class. I have already put in the validators and I will show you the properties for them. The first validator is required field validator. Needed to be set to RBL team. Error message should have read accordingly. Colors red, displays dynamic, and set focus on errors true. The next two validators are another required field with the same properties except set to TXT number of games, and a compare validator that checked for greater than 0, and you had to set the type to integer to make sure it was an integer. A lot of you guys did data type check and it might still work, but it was incorrect and it just not best practice. The fourth validator was another required field set to the RBL food, and it had similar properties to the other required field validators. So for the first method, we're going to double click on button order click, and we are going to create the variables where we're going to set the price and the number of games. So as you can see, I created a deck sum variable, and that will hold the total amount from the games multiplied by the value in the RBL for the team. The int games was converted to integer from the text box, and then in deck sum right here, I converted the value from the RBL and multiplied it by int games. I then created deck fee, and that's only going to be used if the number of games was greater than or equal to 8. And then deck total will hold the total value of deck sum, so the number of games times the value, and then if there was more than 8 games, then deck fee is going to get added. So I'm going to start to create the label using an if statement. So as you can see, for the first label, you selected the team from the RBL team, and you do selected item.text. To get the number of games, you pulled from the text box, and then to get the value, you pulled from the RBL again. Now I'm going to do the if statement to see if the number of games was over 8. So here's the start of my if statement. If the number of games is over 8, then the label is going to accumulate and say you got tickets to the playoffs unless you're a Browns fan, because they never make the playoffs. And we're going to add in a page break. Now we're going to be creating the if statement that checks to see if you selected yes on the RBL food. If you did, then $30 will be added to your total. Whenever checking a selected index, you always have to do 2 equal signs. And now I'm going to set the deck fee equal to 30 if yes is selected, and add that number to the deck total. So now that I've got the label, if the selected index is 0 or yes created, and I'm going to set deck fee equal to 30 and add that value to deck total. And that wraps up the second if statement. Now we can create the last line of the label output. So because we calculate deck total in this if statement, we don't have to create 2 label output decisions. So instead of doing label output up in here, we can just leave it where it is down here, and deck total will change based on whether or not the selected index is 0. Now we are going to make the label visible and do some cleanup. To make the label visible, you have to do LBL output.visible equals true, and then cleanup. For the text box, you just make empty brackets. If I can do that. And then to reset the RBLs, you change the selected index to -1. Alright, now we are going to look at how to get the food label to appear and disappear, whether or not you clicked on yes or no. To do that, you had to create another method called RBL food selected index change, and we're going to write a label for that and then do an if statement. Alright, so now we have the label created. We're going to do an if statement to check the selected index of the RBL food. So if it equals 0, that means it's on yes, and we do not want it to display the message. So we are going to say LBL food dot visible equals false. And then if we do want it to display the label, we're going to do an else statement and simply make it true. So now that the if statement is created for the label, we go back into the design view, click on the RBL, and make sure that we enable auto postback. Auto postback basically just says whenever it's clicked, the action will be done immediately instead of having to reload the page. So now that we have all the code created for the methods, I'm going to go up to the page load method and just set the focus equal to the RBL. So set focus RBL team. Alright, and that is everything for the quiz. I'm going to run it real quick to show you that it's working. Alright, now that the page is loaded, you can see that if you put in values, auto postback works correctly to display the message. Since we got 8 tickets, the playoff if statement worked correctly and inserted an extra line into the output. Say we didn't get 8 tickets, but selected yes, you can see that the food if statement worked correctly and $30 was added to the total. Hope this, guys, helps you better understand what happened in quiz 3. If you have any questions, you can email me or go to Dr. Mata's office hours. Thanks.